Well, this is sort of a companion piece to my last video. I know my last video I talked about when looking at past events, that since you're not who you were then, that your memories may have layers attached that you've attached to them, and so you're not looking at what really occurred, but what your version of what occurred was. And it dawned on me I didn't really go into depth about why sometimes we need to go into the past. The past is the past. And when we're in the now, we don't necessarily have to worry about the past. We shouldn't worry about the past. But if we have attachments to past events, it can cause us to make deviations when in the now. In addition to us having automatic pilot thoughts, monkey mind thoughts, where when we're not paying attention to what's going on, our mind just goes ahead and makes decisions for us. But in addition to that, we can have events that have occurred in the past, and we have an attachment to them. Perhaps somebody's hurt you in the past in a romantic situation. Perhaps you had a bad breakup with a boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever. And so in the now, when somebody tries to initiate a conversation with you, you basically flinch and don't allow yourself to open up. And the reason why is because that pain from the past keeps drawing you away from the now. That's just one example. Could have been that you were fired, perhaps somebody said something to you. There are lots of things that happen in our past, and most of them we deal with and we move on. But occasionally some things will have a real impact on us, and we will get wrapped up in that event, and we will form an attachment so that even though we're in the now, even though it's been 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, however long, that event still comes into the present every time we're put into a situation that mirrors or mimics that event. A bad breakup, maybe your mother told you that you were no good or that you never amount to anything. There's lots of events that happen to us that we can form an attachment with. And that is what I was talking about in my other video about it's important where we have those memories, we have those past events that we're still tethered to and we keep dragging them into the present, that we need to go back and we need to look at them and we need to learn the lesson that we need to learn from that event. We need to learn everything that we can from that event, but then we need to detach ourselves from it and let that event just be a part of our past, just a memory of our past, so that when we're in the now, we can actively make decisions without being affected. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't learn from it, like in the case of, let's say, a bad breakup. All right, what did you learn about that what did you learn about that situation? And now you can apply it to the now. And, it doesn't mean forget, because, our past, our memories of our past are what help shape our future, so to speak. Because that's how we learn our lessons. But you learn the lesson, you experience the emotion, and then you detach yourself from the emotion so that it can be just a memory and you can move forward. Because there are things that a lot of us carry around where we're still emotionally attached to it, and we are expending our energy and our focus on things that occurred in the past. So, so it's important that when you have those things, when you have memories, when you have events that occurred, if you still have an attachment that's dragging it into the present and affecting your life today, to go back and honestly look at, go past the filters, and honestly look at what occurred, what can you learn from it, so that you can let it be a part of you, but not let it be a burden to you. Detach yourself emotionally from it. Like I said, feel the emotion of the event that occurred. Learn the lesson. And then detach yourself emotionally from it so that it's not holding you back and you can move forward. But I didn't feel that I carefully went over. That's the reason why you need to look in the past, is for those things that you're attached to. Also, the past is a great knowledge for when you are in the now. When you're in the now and somebody comes up and says or does something, you have an incredible wealth of knowledge of past events so that you can make the choices that work for you. But when we have an emotional attachment, we don't necessarily think clearly. We allow the automatic responses. Oh, I went out on a date and I got hurt. So anytime somebody asks you out, you always say no. Learn your lesson, and then you know who to say yes to, who to say no to, and how to grow. But it's important that the past is our past and it shapes us. But the now is where we need to make the decision, because that is the only time we have to make a decision. We can make plans for what we'll do in the future. We can get caught up in wish fulfillment of looking at the past and saying, if only I had, or I should have, or I could have. But now, today, this moment, this is when the decision is made. This is the time that we have. So if we want a more productive future, or if we're not happy with where we're at today, then we change the decisions we make today so that our outcomes in the future will be different. And one of the ways we can do that is by drawing upon our past. Not letting our past rule us, not being attached to our past, but recognizing the past made us so that we can make better decisions today.